many first impressions can tell you the exact opposite thing. You think something's good and then it fails. What is the difference between a successful and a failed product? How can you find the issues and fix them in time? This happened to me, and this is what I did, including my full 9-step framework for successful redesigns. And this is my favorite part, emotional triggers. So you can try switching from fear to desire, for example, or to power. And then you watch your revenue go brrrr. This is a story about how Square One became Pageformance. I'm gonna take you through a full unfiltered redesign masterclass. The before, the after, and everything in between. First, you need to analyze the current site. Find the issues that sometimes go against your own bias. Then figure out what the product actually needs to say, addressing the pain points just the right way. And ultimately, you need to build a landing page that feels unique. There is way too much slop out there, and slop is not converting. To make this harder for ourselves, we decided to actually use some of the AI tropes to figure out if they can be done tastefully. Things like purple and blue gradients and colorful borders. And yeah, a lot of great stuff can be done with overused ideas if you do them right. So I'll take you through fully annotated before, fully annotated after, all the design decisions explained, why I did that, what's the idea behind it and why it works. And then at the end, I'm gonna give you my 9-step full framework for successful redesigns. Let's start by analyzing the previous version of the main landing page. I really liked the phrase competitive intelligence for landing pages, but now I realize that it's really not that clear, so this kicker is not perfect. Then we set it up as a simple comparison, your website versus top performers. It doesn't really fully explain what it does, it only gives a little bit of framing. And then answering why should you care, we say that all that information, both for you and those top performers, is tracked monthly. Finally, in the description, we explain what the website does exactly, what kind of patterns it tracks, and what data points it gets. But looking at it now, all of that copy feels a little bit unclear. At the top, we have the classic split login and sign up buttons so you can get into the platform. The main CTA is red, which is a color that's not commonly used on most of the websites that we are showing below, so it will likely be visible, but track everything, it doesn't really say what's gonna happen. Next to the CTA, we have a couple of examples of different data points and analysis, so they change every few seconds, and because of that, people can see what kind of information they're gonna get if they start tracking their own website. This is an idea that was good in this first version, so we kept it for the final one. And the main visuals are actually the websites that we're tracking, all of them. So if you keep scrolling down, you're gonna be seeing more and more websites, and that's basically an infinite list. Clicking onto one goes to its details, right from here, right without logging in or signing up, which is a good thing. Now let's talk about the redesign. This one is more clear and goal-oriented, so basically it says what it's gonna do to you. It's not some competitive analysis for whatever, but instead it basically says what's gonna happen. Then we start off the headline with an action, so what's gonna happen once you register for this? Which is followed by the most desired result, so growing conversion. That's what most people, most companies, most websites want. So you're gonna start with an action that's gonna lead you to the result of growing conversion. And then the claim is backed by information. So we showcase that we have over 4,500 different websites in a lot of different categories, that they're tracked every month and they are analyzed across a couple of different metrics. Plus, you get a clear report of what's going on with your site and how you can improve it. We still have a clear navigation, clear menu that simply allows you to get in, but this time with just one button. That ensures a lot less competition between buttons. Instead of showing an endless grid of sites, we show just a couple of them in a horizontal carousel, and we have indicators which of these websites are working the best based on our data. So you already see that it's not about just how they look. Some of them are clearly better than others. And there is also a little Easter egg if you hover over the logo. Stuff like that shows attention to detail, and that is a metric that actually builds trust in the users that are the target for this site. We really liked the analyzed data examples from the previous website, so we kept them, but we moved them a little bit away from the CTA to avoid confusion. They change, so they do get some of your attention, but they're not the primary thing. And then you see already, without going to the pricing, that a single website analysis is just $13. We are also adding a try free button to this site in its final form, so you should be able to see it live right now. The idea is to decrease friction as much as possible. Now let's go down the site and show a little bit more of it. Because the previous site tried to explain what it does in just the headline, and then below it was a grid of websites, nothing more. Here we decided to go in opposite direction. The next section starts with a kicker that highlights that everything happens on its own. You don't have to do much to use this. Whenever we can outsource hard thinking and problem solving, we always do it because our brains like to optimize. And here it's automated and it's for your website. So this is a strong selling point for what the product does. We start by clearing the three main doubts. New users aren't sure if the analysis is worth anything. Is it robust? Is it backed by a lot of information? So we say it exactly right here. It's a very large data set and it's frequently analyzed for changes and updates. The previous website was just as powerful, but it was extremely hard to use and proprietary. And nobody wants to spend a lot of time learning a new tool. It has to be delivered in a way where they can grasp it right away. So we answered the question of how much work is it for the user to use this? Is it going to be simple or complicated? And yes, this is just ready to use right away. And more recently, with a lot of vibe-coded apps and products, you cannot be ever certain that people that made something actually knew what they were doing. So we answered the main question here: how do I know that it's quality information? And we have a section to further clear those doubts later down the page. In the next section, we're priming the users for a list of features, but we also repeat that headline that was in the kicker before. So it's a tool to grow conversion on autopilot. And then we stuck a lot of sub-benefits with a flow that is kind of like a step-by-step guide. You do this, then this happens, then this happens, and then this happens. This is very easy to imagine by people, and it explains how robust the platform is. The first section is all about the recommendation engine, and I really like how we used an Apple-style naming here, but I think it fits and works well. Also, in the couple next sections, all of the icons next to text are animated to highlight it. The mini description text is super short and very to the point. And in this section, we show this box actually switching back and forth between a good headline and a bad headline. So you can see right away what changes in the headline and what are the highlighted words that don't make sense. Assigning a measurable score helps highlighting the difference between the good and the bad performer. And we also show that each section has a deeper analysis next to it, so it's not just a score and a couple of words, it's actually a lot more. Then the next section is all about looking into what the competition is doing, and everybody wants to do that. So let's analyze this section as well, but first, if you want to steal my entire process, templates, methods, and strategies, and on top of that, be able to ask me questions directly, you can still join the Squareblock Blueprint. Link in the description. There is a couple hundred people in there already, and they're enjoying every bit of it. We show that your analysis is yours only, but you can take a look at what everybody else is doing publicly. So you're not really getting just one analysis. Sure, you can analyze your own website, but you can also track and analyze 4,500 other sites, so you can see the recommendations that they get for their headlines, CTAs, and everything. And the visual is all about matching what's happening in the copy. So every few seconds, in this little carousel, one of the websites get highlighted and assigned a score. Then we highlight that it's not just an analytics tool for website headlines. It looks at a lot more, including speed, design, slop level, and SEO. We also want to highlight that the data is not removed every month. We keep every version of every website forever so you can look back and see what changed. And we visualize that change by showing this month and last month and showing how different scores can change in a single month. Then you can use a magic ball to predict new trends, but we show that it's completely based on data. And we explain why it works and why it's important. In the visual, the months switch automatically every few seconds, showing a completely different chart. So you see some trends going up and some going down, which explains that you can use the historical data and the current trends to predict what possibly can happen in the future, and this platform helps you with it. And then we have a section about me, but it starts by showing that it's a custom proprietary algorithm, something that we came up with completely on our own, not something vibe coded in a weekend. But instead that it's based on really extensive experience, many years. But many people might not be sure if it's an actual working product, so we highlight that it's 25 years of extensive experience, and many of those things that are on the platform won't be found anywhere else. But also many people might not know me, obviously, so many will have this doubt that is this guy any good? So we will highlight that I'm a conference speaker, I was teaching design at a university, and kind of I'm an influencer, but I don't really like that word. And also many people might think that, okay, he's a designer, nice, but what did he do in design? So we highlight that we worked with startups and Fortune 500 companies and did a lot of different projects for them. And we show a list of scrolling logos of different brands and companies we did work for right under this. You can go to Squareblock's website and actually see what we did for each one of these brands, that these are actual real projects, and all of that knowledge combined went into creating page formats. And let's wrap the landing page up with an FAQ section. It's good to have this as one of the last sections, because if you haven't cleared all the doubts yet on the site itself, there might be some extra things that people might want to know. We asked our current users and our wider community and basically tried to answer their main questions here. And if there is a certain doubt that's not answered anywhere on the page for a very specific use case or a person, they can just email us and ask, which lowers the friction quite a bit. Because if they're unsure about anything, they can get help. We also tried to frame as many of these questions around the client. So how can my website be improved with this is one of the questions that popped out a lot. So almost everybody wants to know that, and it's pretty obvious. So we explained it. But we also wanted to highlight that the reason that this even exists is because we were using a similar system before, but it was cumbersome and not that easy to use. So we made a platform initially for ourselves, for our own professional work, including those Fortune 500 companies. And now we are sharing the backbone of this system with everybody. And then we put the refunds and cancellation questions last. Since they haven't bought it yet, it's more important for them to just feel safe. Now let's briefly get back to the previous website dashboard and analysis, and then I'm gonna show you a live version of the new website and explain what changed. It starts with a category and a name, which means that you can use it kind of like a breadcrumb and go into the agency category and see all the different websites there. We use AI to parse the information and understand what the website or company is about. So if you go to a website that you don't know from the catalog, you can briefly understand what they're doing, what the company is. And then once again, we try to explain what you can get and understand about this particular website. It's a little bit SEO trickery and a little bit trying to get the user to know where they are. Currently, you're in the Insights tab, so basically we show the website and then below we show how it works. So different analytics of the copy, the speed, the SEO and everything. You can also switch to long-term trends and basically see how it's changed over time. What was the headline or the CTA a month ago, a year ago, 2 years ago? But the problem with this is that this division is completely unclear and placed in a spot where many people might miss it. And there is so much more information in the trends later on the site that you definitely don't want to miss it. We also have a button that shows similar websites to this one, and it even shows previews right on the button, but it's pretty hard to understand and often invisible because it overlays the actual image. We have the metadata on the right side with a link and a location and a way to bookmark this, but it's not really explained anywhere. And then all of the actual insights are below and they are blurred and paywalled. So if you're not a paid subscriber, you basically only see this, and this is not enough to convince you to switch. Now let me show you an analysis that a paid subscriber can see. We have a bit of like a dashboard heading with little indicators that are either red or green. If it's green, it means it's good, but if it's red, it means that this is an important thing to fix. Then we compare a couple of different metrics like page speed or CTA wording with different websites in your category to see how you stack up. And then below, it's two columns of collapsible boxes within boxes within boxes with a lot of information, and this goes on very long, and you can extract that information if you know what you're looking for. And this was the biggest problem of the website. So let me show you how this website looks like right now after you sign in and you look at the analysis. So at the top, you can switch between the mobile and desktop views and see all the historical versions of it. The graph is restarted and our current score is above average, which is nice. But there are some things that we can fix on our own site in copy and messaging. The score is higher than in the category, which is nice, but then we highlight different things that you can fix, things that are good and things that are bad, and we explain why. Plus, we propose different variations with estimated click-through ratios. So basically you see what might perform better. And we highlight both the power words and redundant words, so words that are not really contributing. You can skip them, remove them, or change them to something else. And then we go through clarity and specificity. So the term like high conversion, for example, can be pretty vague. Most people might not understand what it means. And then you can see that a lot of our competitors are also using the word conversion, which might be a good idea to switch. And this is my favorite part, emotional triggers. The primary one here is authority because of the Fortune 500, and then there is desire and social proof. But there isn't really any urgency, so it's good to add it. There's also an updated performance and SEO score, which in our case is really high, and design quality, which is something that we definitely need to work on a little bit. There are some elements that can definitely be improved in design. And there is a section with a funny roast of the website that you can use with stakeholders at the meetings to convince them that we need to change something. And the same deep analysis that we had in the headline with both recommendations, power words, redundant words, clarity, specificity, and emotional triggers, and what the competition does, is also done for the CTA button, so what's the text on the button, and the same now goes for the description itself. So there's quite a lot of redundant words here in our case, and it's a little bit passive and generic. So we are definitely redesigning it. And it's not that we should completely copy one of those recommendations, but we should use it as a base to figure out how to better communicate it. And then, of course, we have the emotional triggers of the descriptions as well. And when you look at it this way, you realize that, yeah, let's find out, it's actually a pretty uncertain approach. So we should change it to something more specific, and we're gonna do that today. We use this framework for both startups, Fortune 500 brands, and recently our own products. And yeah, we kind of used Pageformance 1.0 to fix up Pageformance 2.0. Because in a way, a lot of this framework is built into the product now. Number one, note out who the product is for, what are the main benefits, the sub-benefits, and is there a mode? Is it easy to replicate what you build? Because if somebody can vibe code it in an hour, then it's not a viable product. Then think about these. Is the target audience big enough and do they have money? Is the benefit worthwhile? Does it help the customers get more money? Are the sub-benefits compelling? And once again, is it easy to replicate? Then strip all the visuals of your product and create a type frame out of it. Look at it again, and if it's not convincing you to buy it from just the text alone without the fancy shiny visuals, then you have work to do. Now, it's a process of highlighting the right things. So we can do it in Pageformance, but you can also do it by hand. Highlight the power words, highlight the redundant words in the copy, in the headline, in the CTAs, everywhere, and then highlight the emotional impact of these words. If you know your emotional context, so what is the primary and secondary emotions that you're conveying with your messaging, you can try switching to a different one. So you can try switching from fear to desire, for example, or to power. This takes a while, but it's a crucial step before you get to any visuals. Once you nail the top of the copy, you make the type frame into two main sections: problem versus your solution and clearing doubts. That's the complete blueprint for a successful landing page of all kinds. Only these two sections, and they're different every time. The top section should be simple, unobtrusive, copy-focused. If you add a lot of shiny moving visuals and colorful gradients and blobs to it, that takes away the attention needed to process the text. You can add something that illustrates and reinforces that text. So it can't be some random image that just looks nice. It has to be something that strengthens the message. It shouldn't also have a complex dashboard as the main part of the hero section, because nobody cares and has the time to understand what the dashboard is and all the stuff on it. Instead of a clear solution to their problem, you're giving people a lot to think about and try to parse. Another thing to avoid is what we call a metrics theater, which is a lot of different numbers, a lot of different claims, and basically complete chaos, thinking that people will see an abundance and think it solves their problem. But no, this just makes them slower to actually take action. And the same goes for clearing doubts, but there you can actually do a little bit more. Right now we are working with little complex animations within each section that show exactly fully illustrative what that section does, what it's about, and explain it as a visual thing. So you don't even need to read the copy, but if you read the copy and see the visual, you instantly know what's going on. And then the last step is to make a post-launch strategy document. I shared them in the Squareblock Blueprint as well. The post-launch strategy is basically what will happen 1 week after launch. How will you collect the data? What kind of analytics you'll use? Just plain analytics or plain and visual? And the strategy document is all about outlining what will be tweaked first. So are you gonna A/B test the headline copy or change the visuals? When is gonna be the first outreach to your users to find out what they're finding confusing or annoying at the site? And a lot of different little steps that contribute to your full plan. So the redesign is just actually a starting point, and what happens next is the most important. You make something slightly better or a lot better, but then it's little iterations to grow 1%, 2% every week or two. So yeah, it's not that hard, but it seems that I forgot some of my own rules when working on this page because I really wanted to rush it to market, and I understood those complex data points. I was able to parse them myself and kind of understand and learn from them. But not everybody thinks the same way, and it really needed help. The page needed help. Now I'm really happy with it. I'm using it every day myself when making landing pages for clients and for our own products. And I really think that the right approach helped me save this product. What do you think? Let me know in the comments, and obviously have a beautiful day.